Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first MarCloud webinar of 2025. My name is Triana Jarman. I'm going to be emceeing today's session, and I am joined by the wonderful Reid, who is going to be taking us through today's topic. And before we get into the actual presentation, we're just going to give people a few extra minutes to join the call, hop off from their last meeting. I know everyone's dashing to get to this one. And while we're waiting, feel free to kind of say hello to the rest of the group. It's really nice. I get the privilege of being able to spy and see who's already joined, and I can see a few familiar names in the crowd. Jeff and Marion, nice to see you guys. Oh, see you, can't see anybody in these things, but it's great to see your names on the list. And if people feel like it, give a little shout out to where you're all kind of dialing in from, and if you feel comfortable, favorite animal. It's been a topic of discussion in the office today, so just curious to see what other people would say on that point. Cats and otters. I like that. I mean, it wasn't just cats. We had to actually add otters in there as well. Ooh, a red panda. Do you love a red panda? Goats, Jeff. I like it. Goats. See, I'm going to be curious now. We got to see like all kind of like unique stuff. I do personally also love a cat. I'm going to be a bit standard there, but I love all animals. But I do have two cats, so I should big them up. And Sarah got dog on the list, of course. Bianca, a sloth. Excellent. Cats and penguins. Excellent. Cool. We will just wait maybe one more moment and then we will get started. And it's great to see so many people coming in from kind of all over, quite a few people over from the States, which is great, but also people from Europe. So it's great to have such a broad audience. And thank you all for taking time out of your day, whether it is the afternoon or the morning, to join us. Right. I think we're in a good place to get started. Mark, if you want to, I'm going to pass you the virtual mic.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Triana, and thanks everyone for joining. Okay, we're going to go through some simple and really, really useful reporting that we would kind of rely heavily on with clients week in, week out here at MarCloud. Essentially, what we're going to do, we're going to run through email effectiveness reporting, right? So just to give you a little bit of an introduction about me, I've been working as an account engagement / Pardot consultant since 2020. I'm not going to jump into that argument about whether it's Pardot or account engagement or MCAE, so don't get confused if I use 3 different terms. I'm trying to play by the rule book, but in my heart, it will always be Pardot. So again, a little bit more background, very enthusiastic about sales and marketing alignment. And I kind of love being in that conversation with customers where you're saying, okay, we have this disconnect. You know, I kind of make the joke of Janet Jackson and what have you done for me lately? Trying to align those 2 groups is something that really, really interests me. And I guess that's a little bit of a nod to my background. So I came from a sales background, worked in retail management for years and keen interest in digital marketing and then management as well. So happily joined MarCloud in March of 2024. So coming up on my year anniversary. A little bit of a fun fact about me and a fun gif here as well. I've both flown and jumped out of small aircraft. So thankfully not at the same time. Somebody who was actually in charge of the aircraft at the time I jumped out of it. But yeah, certainly a keen aviation enthusiast. There's a QR code there on the screen, and that's my LinkedIn. If anybody wants to scan it, follow me, and you're more than welcome. Okay, so moving forward, I'll actually pass back to Triana for a second just to talk a little bit about MarCloud and who we are as a company.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So for anybody who is not familiar, MarCloud are a leading marketing automation consultancy and Salesforce partner since 2018. And we very much specialize in marketing cloud, but equally any clouds that kind of very much connect directly to it. But certainly our kind of main focus, and I think the passion for a lot of us on the team, is very much the marketing side of things. We have worked on hundreds of projects from from kind of your basic, quick start implementations to really kind of complex, customized things, ongoing support, a huge variety. Our customers seem to like us, we think. We have a 4.8 out of 5 CSAT rating from people, so we're very proud of that. And again, our clients, they tend to be B2C and B2B. They're global, so we're based primarily in the UK, but we work with clients in Europe, UK, the States as well. And again, we support them on Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and Data Cloud. And one of the things that we're just really kind of proud of and that we try to bring to all of our projects is our Marketing Cloud methodology called Marketing Nirvana, which is just us kind of following a set of principles and guidance to allow clients to build, enable, and deliver best practice through their use of the Marketing Cloud tools. So that's a bit about us. And if you are interested in following the company on LinkedIn, this QR code is for the MarCloud LinkedIn company page. And the last thing I will just say before passing back to Mark, because I forgot in the beginning, is that throughout the presentation, please do ask questions. There is either the chat, which you can add your questions to, or there is a very specific questions icon that you'll see down in the right-hand corner of your screen. Use either one of those, that's fine. I will be doing my best to monitor those questions, and where appropriate, I might interrupt Mark during his presentation and just ask him kind of the questions as they are relevant throughout. Otherwise, we'll have time to answer them at the end. Right, that's me. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks, Trent. Okay, perfect. So our agenda, what we're going to run through today, I'll go through a brief introduction to email reporting, what way we kind of see our clients using each group of reports that we're going to talk about. We're going to look at account engagement reporting for email metrics and kind of where their real benefits are. We're going to look also at utilizing Sales Cloud reports. So when we're looking at custom report types and actually building like more kind of overall strategy reports when we look at marketing effectiveness as a whole. So we're going to look at leveraging Sales Cloud reporting for email effectiveness as well. The last thing we'll look at, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the reporting suite, is looking at the email effectiveness dashboard, right? Again, a marketing effectiveness dashboard, something we should all pride ourselves in. We've all had to stand in those meetings and showcase how effective our efforts have been. So curating a really nice dashboard is something I take a lot of pride in. With clients, you can get really good outcomes from stuff like that. So just to go through the basics, email reporting. So email marketing is still the core of everything we do, right? Obviously, any of the clouds we use, they're far more comprehensive. There's a lot more to them. But the core of what we do is really based around email and email effectiveness. Really what we want to know from all of these reports is, are we actually doing it right? And this is always a part of the project, or a part of the functionality that I like to think about at the immediate start of any project or any campaign we're taking care of. So just one thing to note here, I do have here, we use B2B but we won't be jumping into B2B today. A couple of reasons around that. I think it's a really comprehensive tool. It's really, really powerful, but I do think it deserves its own session. So we'll be kind of focusing on B2B at a later date, because there's no way I could cover it even in the 40 minutes that we have. So we will do a session on B2B another time. So we're going to focus on two primary areas today. One is email reports and account engagement. Again, I'm going with MCAE. But really the strength in this kind of lies in drilling down into individual records, right? So we're drilling into individual assets, looking at an email on its own after send, and getting really good feedback. So where does our heat map look? Where are we getting most click-throughs? And individual metrics on bounces, opens, everything like that. I just see there is a poll down at the bottom of the slide here. So there will be a poll put into the chat here. So again, it's just a little question to kind of get a gauge of how people are using reporting at the moment. So again, really, really useful. But when we look at Sales Cloud reports, and we get a nice GIF. You must choose, but choose wisely. Really, when we look at these groups of reports, we can kind of use them all in conjunction with one another, because they do have their own swim lane. They do have their own use case. Sales Cloud, because we use the campaign record for reporting in Sales Cloud, it kind of gives you a more high-level view of email effectiveness. So we're not looking at an individual email that was sent to a group of people. We're kind of looking at an individual level or at a campaign level to see how effective our email strategy is being. So look at the differentiation between the two. The Sales Cloud reports allow us to paint kind of the bigger picture, right? So we're looking at how effective our email strategy is as part of our overall marketing strategy. So again, really kind of nice to build. You can drill down a little bit more into them. The one thing about the email reports and account engagement is they're out of the box, right? We have very little in terms of customization. With Sales Cloud reports, and of course with B2B MA as well, we're able to customize them and kind of get a little bit more out of them. Okay.
Before you continue, just to remind people, there is a poll that has been posted live, and it's just asking very quickly which of the kind of the three tools, reporting tools that Mark mentioned, are you using currently? Is it the MCAE reports, Sales Cloud reports, or B2B MA, or all of them? I believe the poll should be multi-select, so whichever ones you are using, feel free to tell us, and be interesting to see.
Just hope everyone doesn't click B2B MA and then leave the call. So we're going to look first at account engagement reporting for email metrics. Really, really simple because, as I say, they're out of the box, and we do get those questions from clients around. Oh, on my navigation bar, I see reports and I see account engagement reports side by side. What are the differences? As I say, the kind of core reporting within account engagement, let's call it Pardot for once, we can get into these out-of-the-box reports, and they do give us really, really useful information. Down at the bottom here, I've just put, if you navigate to account engagement reports, marketing assets, emails, and list emails, we can see each individual sent email, and we can click onto each one, drill down into the metrics on it. It's really nice to actually get 4 tabs on a report because we can jump into different variations of the metrics. When you click on the email, it will open up this page. We kind of get some really high level metrics on that individual asset. So what's our delivery rate? What's our HTML open rate? We can see our ratio of clicks to opens and bounces as well. And then we can kind of look at our total hard and soft bounces. Now, again, this is just for this individual email, but we'll run through each tab and kind of give us the strengths of each one. Really, really nice to kind of get an overall view of an email asset. But actually, when we look at the likes of the click-through rate here, we can get really nice information back on, well, what's our heat map look like? Where are we getting most of our clicks and interactions from? Really nice to just be able to read a sent email, look at the heat map. This may, offer us questions that we ask our internal team in terms of, well, is our email too long? Is it too short? Do we have enough prominence in CTAs? What's our best performing CTA? So if we have an email that's, you've got a nice big CTA at the top and a lot of really important information down underneath it, are people clicking the CTA, not getting the information? So again, the click-through allows us to strategize a little bit more on the actual email and just see what is kind of giving us our best interaction. So again, the insight into the drivers behind conversions and clicks, really, really important. And it's all about content optimization. So we do see emails where we're getting really strange click-throughs, we're getting a lack of information or a lack of interaction below the fold. This can be just a nice driver to give us a bit of feedback and give us a bit of an insight into where our clicks and conversions are coming from. So again, really, really strong in terms of individual email strategy. Our interaction tab, really useful as well, just to showcase out of all the emails that were opened, how long were people spending on them? Now, there is always a little bit of a pinch of salt to be taken with this because obviously open rates can be affected by different email clients. It can be firewalls. We can have different things that impact on our email opens. But it's definitely worth looking at and saying, okay, well, if we've got a lot of people who are technically spending more than 10 seconds on our emails, we can kind of get a good idea that our subject line is working in 11, it's promoting click-throughs and actually opening the email. So again, really useful to kind of look at. Triana.
Mark,
Yes.
Before you just hop into the next tab here, one really good question that's come through from Karen is about how do we account for spam filter clicks or bot clicks within these reports?
Yeah, again, that's where we're saying a little bit of pinch of salt with this. It's definitely, and again, we look at the individual records and you can look at your opens and clicks. You can look at the timings of them as well. I've seen that where you see a mass amount of clicks and opens at exactly the same time. So it is definitely something to factor into your conversation when you're thinking about that interaction. But definitely using this in conjunction with the clicks is definitely something we would promote. So yeah, as I say, it's definitely something that we're very aware of. So yeah, it's just something we kind of have to factor into our decision making on those opens.
I believe as well, and we might have to just go away and re-sense check this, but I'm pretty sure that within Pardot, sorry, I am calling it Pardot,
Yeah.
it does have a built-in functionality to do its best to kind of filter out engagement where it does believe that it is spam or bots clicking. So I think there's in fact like a time period where if it detects a high amount of clicks in a short amount of time, and again, I'll have to just sense check exactly what those kind of figures are, it will negate all of the clicks and it would only count it once. I'll make a little note. We can just go away and double check that and kind of come back to people on it.
Definitely for
Um,
multiples, absolutely.
yeah, and just sorry, Kelly, tips on kind of getting around bots. One thing that we sometimes suggest to clients if they're really struggling, because there are some industries where maybe either the people you're emailing, it just seems to be a bit prolific. Kind of bots or kind of very trigger happy firewalls. You can actually use like a hidden custom redirect in your email template that literally would only ever be clicked by a bot because the human would not know that it is there. It's like almost hidden within the code, but it is there within the email. And you would set that to then flag that particular prospect as a potential bot or kind of coming from like a spam IP address, and then you could add them to a list and make a decision about whether you actually want to get rid of that prospect entirely, mark them as do not email, or any kind of subsequent action like that is one suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very funny, and it's really interesting to actually be able to read those as well. It's something we get asked quite a lot is, okay, this is quite strange behavior we're noticing within our org. What's your best advice on it? So it is definitely something that we do solve, and we always come up with we're always challenged with different scenarios, such as things being read after unsubscribe and all kinds of weird stuff. So it is good to kind of know the narrative there and be able to read it. Thanks, Trian. The last piece, which is kind of key for us when we look at our account engagement reports and individual emails, is the email client breakdown. Now, again, this is something that we rely heavily on for a couple of reasons. So this gives us a nice breakdown in terms of what email clients our users are using, and when we're actually opening the emails, you'll see a lot of stuff where dependent on the business, it's primarily Outlook, and we get a lot of breakdown there. But the key thing for this is obviously when we're looking at how our email templates respond to different clients. And we've a really good development team here, and a lot of what they would do would be in terms of building out email templates. And a lot of their concern is, well, how does the email actually render on specific clients? So if we're looking at, okay, let's call it Outlook, for example, if that was the most problematic client that we have to deal with, the developers will write code that's specific to the email's behavior on Outlook. You can also factor in really important things like dark mode, so ensuring that your emails display correctly across dark mode if it's primarily dark mode that your end users have. So definitely vital when we look at that overall strategy piece. How do we build our email templates? How do we make sure they're effective for each and every client that we have to deal with? So yeah, really, really crucial when you're looking at that email template inception. Very, very good in terms of giving us that feedback.
Mark, got another question for you that's just come through, which is a good one. Is there a way that we can see how many people would have seen the text version of an email that has been sent compared to the HTML?
I'm fairly sure we can actually. That's a good question because I've never been asked that by a client. So yes, I'd be fairly sure we can get that breakdown. But again, that's something I will sense check. Unless, Triana, you can prove me right or wrong.
No, it equally, it's the one that I'm kind of like, oh, I don't think I've ever actually been asked the question before, and I can't actually think that off the top of my head that there is a way of knowing whether someone saw the text version or not. So yeah, we'll go away, Joanne, and take a look at that.
Yeah, it's definitely something and that's, I guess, part of the best thing about being a consultant is you're always challenged, right? So yeah, I'll look into that because it's something that's definitely valid for us. So we're going to kind of move on because we do have one last piece. We kind of report, as we said, and we're focusing on the template that's built within account engagement. Now, the thing to say here, and the really important thing to note is your email template reports, your email templates are used in multiple sends, right? So this will kind of give you a roll-up of statistics based on every email send you've used that template for. So overall effectiveness, if we have one master template that we're using for every send, again, it's good to be able to read this and say, okay, well, we're using this template. Are we getting a really high degree of opt-outs? Are we getting a really high degree of hard bounce or spam complaints, anything like that? Because at a template level, you can see down at the bottom of this report our total spam complaints and our spam complaint rates. So if you are noticing that this template has too much in it, it could be too many URLs, click-throughs, it could have too many images even, for example, that can lead to spam traps and spam complaints. The metrics here quite similar to that individual email report, but as I say, it just rolls everything up on the template. But again, it doesn't give you the breakdown per specific use. So again, definitely worth looking at as an overall strategic piece, but it doesn't give you the same level of insight because obviously we use a template as a base and then we send list emails like postcards off the back of it. So that's our account engagement emails. And again, what I always like to think about is, well, where are these emails most important for, or what role? Individual marketers who are creating emails, sending them, doing all that kind of stuff, they're more focused on the individual asset. Whereas when we transition to the Sales Cloud reports, yes, it's very, very important for marketers. It's very, very important for that overall piece. But I think what we look at when we talk about the Sales Cloud reports is far more of a strategic piece. How are our emails performing as a whole? How are we looking at email as part of our overall strategy? And how does that all fit together? So again, when we talk about execution of campaigns, I always think, okay, we go from kind of ideation to execution. And then when we get to the reporting stage, do we have everything set up to catch all the data that we're going to get back? And the big thing I always talk about with clients is, can we make this actionable, right? So when we build out reports, we get the metrics back. It's all well and good to look at that and go, that looks great on paper, brilliant. We got a really good click-through rate, but what are we going to do with it? And that's where that idea of email effectiveness or marketing effectiveness as a whole comes into play. And that's where these reports become really, really valuable to us. Looking at account engagement data in Sales Cloud reports, really, really powerful, because what we use within Sales Cloud is kind of almost a junction object, is your campaign record. So the campaign, I always talk about its effectiveness as a unit. Within the campaign, you have all of your assets, whether they be emails, forms, landing pages, any custom redirects that we build. We also have the people, so your campaign members within there as well. So we can kind of look at that level of engagement. We've got the likes of investment and return on investment, so you can kind of get a lot more information out of the campaign object. So because we now use connected campaigns, the campaign object becomes so powerful, and actually the reporting steps up in line with that. So the campaign reporting really becomes a hero when we talk about this. So again, because we can group this by campaign, we can group it by email or by email name, we can put a lot of grouping in there. It allows us to leverage the likes of the campaign hierarchy and see how well our emails are performing across multiple campaigns rolled up into a parent, etc. Again, we're getting into customization here. The Marketing Cloud account engagement reports out of the box, brilliant, gives us really good feedback. But here we're able to just do some customization. Again, if we need to build custom fields or anything like that out, custom formulas, anything we need to do to make our reporting suite a little bit more sleek, absolutely fantastic when we're using Sales Cloud reports. So we're going to look at kind of the marketing effectiveness, or sorry, the email effectiveness report as the example. But as I said, because we're utilizing the campaign object, we can build out custom report types. And this does take a little bit of doing. It's not the most arduous task in the world, but setting up custom report types means we can leverage the kind of the mix of campaigns with emails, campaigns with forms, campaigns with landing pages, and also with marketing links. So again, these are the things we build within Pardot. I said it, Pardot, and we attribute to a campaign. So again, that's why this campaign strategy, campaign hierarchy all comes in so important, because we're linking all of our assets to the campaign and we're leveraging the reports at the end to kind of make sure that what we're doing is effectiveness. as I say, MB in red, they do need to be set up. They don't come out of the box, but it's not too big of a job if you do have a Sales Cloud admin. So we're kind of looking at a bit of customization here. Why should we use them? I've kind of covered over that already, right? So we talked about the account engagement reports on the individual level. We're looking at the heat map. We're doing all that kind of stuff to see what's performing well for us in that regard. But alongside that, if we use our Sales Cloud reports, we get just more of a high level view. So again, feeding into that overall strategy idea. Far more focused on campaign grouping, KPIs, looking at our total sent, total delivered. When I'm building out these reports, I like to think of that natural flow of an email from our outbox to the person's inbox and then what happens afterwards. So I would kind of rifle through it like total sent, total delivered, total opens, unique opens, and then all the way through to click-throughs. And you can even work on unsubscribes, hard bounces, etc. So we can get a lot of information back. As I said, the nicest thing about this is curating all of that information into a dashboard. So for presentation purposes, we can stand on a really nicely built dashboard. We can change out metrics and put different looks and feels to components. So we can do a lot of stuff there as well. And as I say, this should all feed into your overall campaign strategy, right? So email marketing, how is it performing as its own channel? How is it looking? What's the interaction like? Is it actually pulling its weight? So definitely kind of, because we're using Sales Cloud, we're definitely into more of a strategic piece. Okay, this is a really just and I will warn you, I'm not actually going to use live data because it's much like working with live animals. It always goes wrong. So you'll get some really nice screenshots here, and we'll kind of just run through the basics of how to build out that report. Now, I will remind you, but this does kind of lean on the fact that we already have that custom report type set up. Okay. So as I say, we've got our custom report type of campaigns with list emails set up. Really, really useful for us. And again, there's just a little bit of a tip there. If you do go and create those report types of campaigns with list emails, forms, landing pages, or custom redirects, which are called marketing links in Sales Cloud, I always just nest them in under the campaign category, so they're just a little bit easier to find. Building out these reports, it depends. If you're doing it, brilliant. If you have someone else to do it for you, it's the same step, right? So we're going to locate our report type. We're going to click on that lovely start report button, and it will basically auto-generate a report for us that has just fields within it. Now, as I say, it depends on how that report type was set up, but what we want to see are the metrics like your total sent, your total delivered, your total opt-outs, and bounces. You want to see click-through, all of that kind of stuff. So building out the reports, if you don't see those fields, we can just select them from a palette. So I'll talk about that in a second. But really simple straight away, you get into something that kind of gives you an overview straight away of all of your key metrics. So as you can see in the center here, I've got campaign name and then all my totals. So sent, delivered, opens, unique opens. So you can add plenty of metrics in there for yourself. Really, the key to this is, well, how do we want to group the information we're getting back? Okay, so we can have every email that we've ever sent. That's fine. It looks great. We've got all these numbers and stuff on a report. Really, what we want to do is focus on, well, what's the most important way to group this? Is it by individual email? That's fine if we want to group by that. But really, the more effective thing is, well, let's look at a campaign overall, because if we have multiple emails within the campaign, brilliant. We can have all of those listed one under the other. If we're focusing on the same audience, for example, we can kind of get a gauge of how involved are the audience, what's the interaction level like, are there a lot of click-throughs, are there a lot of opt-outs? So again, looking at that piece around email database health can be really, really useful if we're grouping by campaign. Targeting a specific group of campaign members, is everyone we send an email to just clicking opt-out and leaving, right? So again, grouping by campaign, or do we want to group by date? How effective was email marketing in the first quarter versus the second? Do we have a time period where we have a lot of people on holiday, so we're seeing a big drop off in terms of opens and click-throughs? You can really start to use this to leverage that kind of strategic piece. So again, yes.
Sorry, I've got a really relevant question to what you were just saying there about grouping in particular by campaign. So Bianca has asked if it's best practice to be creating CRM campaigns for every email or to group multiple emails within a single campaign. What advice would you have for Bianca there?
it really depends on how granular you want to be, and where those metrics need to sit. So sometimes what you find is if you've got a campaign and you've got 150 emails in there, and you're creating an individual email for each, or an individual campaign for each email, it can lead to a lot of clutter. So again, what a lot of people will do is just have one individual campaign and just make sure that we can, in the grouping of our report, have an individual campaign and each individual email record grouped by name. So you can see each individual record all attributed to one campaign. So you're almost looking at a parent-child relationship with everything there underneath it. Really depends on your strategy. I have seen it done with individual campaigns per email. And I guess when you're looking at that, what do we want the outcome to be if somebody interacts with our email? Are we looking at campaign member statuses or anything like that? So there is obviously a use case for differentiation, but I think it can get a little bit too cluttered if we have individual campaigns per email.
Cool, okay. Thank you.
No problem. I guess when we're building out a report like this, the key thing, and it's something, another little nugget of information about me is, like, I come from a background where I have a degree in fine art and art history. So I always like to make things look a little bit pretty if I can. And when we are using a grouping within a report like this, as soon as we pull a field up to the group or type it into our group rows section, there is a previously grayed out button of add chart. That means we can add a nice visual to the top of the report. It means people aren't looking at just a series of gray words and numbers on a page. We're looking at something that's a little bit more visually striking. So adding a chart to a report, really, really nice. But also, it's kind of better when we come to the storytelling part of our report. One other tip there, and I don't know how I forgot it because it's in blue. If you're looking for a send date on your email report for, okay, well, when was this email sent? The field actually doesn't exist as sent date. What it does is it exists as scheduled date or scheduled date, depending on what time of the day it is. So you can kind of get into grouping by scheduled date. So again, if we are looking at that, month by month breakdown or quarter by quarter breakdown on sends, we can very quickly add that in as a filter or a group. So it's definitely something that we would kind of get asked about quite a lot, is where's my send date? It's in a scheduled date. So again, just to differentiate between the two, really, really useful when we're talking about grouping. So adding chart, and Triana, actually, just from memory, have I skipped over a poll?
You have not. I don't think so anyway.
Okay, good. Okay, so when we talk about reports in Sales Cloud, right? It's something that I always think of. And again, when we're building out reports, it's something that's quite friendly, because in my view, all the information's in there. All we're doing is choosing how to display it, right? So we talk about that slice and dice. I always think of a pizza. But I always think, okay, we're going to slice and dice the information just to show the correct groups and the correct values, so that we're only seeing what's relevant to us. And where that comes into effect, really, yes, grouping is a part of it, but filtration is something that's very, very important as well. So when we're building out these reports, sometimes what happens is you'll build out a report, you'll say, brilliant, I've got my campaigns at list emails report. And I click run, and I see no results. Sometimes that's down to filters, right? So there's a default filter that comes out where it will basically look for my active campaigns, right? Brilliant, that's great. And it will put a start date of the current financial quarter in. So again, we need to just switch to our desired date range, and maybe switch to all campaigns or active campaigns. Again, it's quite dependent on what way you set up your campaigns. But adding filters in will generally just pull the net in a little bit, give you far more specific data. There's other filters you can put in. You can put in filters on email name. You can put in filters of campaign name, or even subject line if we do want to break it down a little bit as well. I guess there's a few things in the filter pane we want to just kind of highlight. You do have things like operators, which give us more kind of flexibility in terms of filtering things in or out. So again, for example, if we're trying to filter out sent test emails or anything like that, we can look at ways of doing that. So again, what we want to do is just make sure we're focusing on the correct data.
Mark, sorry,
yes.
Just to interject, Ian had a, again, relevant question to previous. He was saying that when he's creating reports in Sales Cloud, looking at multiple emails that have come from an engagement studio campaign, the email names tend to look like you'll know this, it's the email 1, email 2, email 3, because that's the way now the nodes in
Yeah.
Engagement Studio identify them. Is there a
Yeah.
way to customize these, or should he be looking at a different field to filter on to show, I guess, the actual name of the email?
Well, that's extremely relevant timing for that question, because actually the bottom point here, if you're using a lot of automated email, so again, noting that Engagement Studio node behavior of, send 1, send 2, or email 1, email 2, and pulling in the subject line is something which just differentiates between the two. And again, if we think about the ideation of a campaign, right, we now know we're using email, we're using Engagement Studio for this. We're going to run into that. Let's make sure we have our subject line in mind to just differentiate between. So yes, grouping on subject line for that exact purpose just gives us the best insight into how it goes. And again, that's kind of a nod to subject line importance and looking at that optimization as well. So yes, definitely a very, very valid point there. Just to kind of talk about operators, and I'm quite conscious that we're 10 minutes to go. There's a lot of stuff we can use in terms of like different variants on the operator to make sure we get the right information in or out. So we can use like your equals to, which is obviously a verbatim match to make sure it's exactly letter for letter. Or we can have contains, which is a little bit more friendly. As I say, the best thing about building out reports is they're quite friendly. They're not going to do anything unless there's no real action off the back of it unless you're using the report in anything automated or anything like that. Really what we want to do is just take information, slice it up in whatever way we want, and just display it. So again, I would say get in, build out some reports, have a look around how they operate, and just build them out, get them wrong, because they are quite friendly in terms of what they give you. So yeah, good question on the Engagement Studio and subjects. Definitely something we would kind of run into all the time. Adding a chart in, again, really valuable from a visualization perspective. This leads quite nicely into the dashboard piece. So how do we want this to display? I've built a really, really simple, very, very simple chart on the top of our email report, which just styles it up a little bit and just tells the story of the email send each time. So as standard, you click the chart icon, it will throw a bar chart in there. As standard, it throws campaign name in as the y-axis. So again, we're just looking at single campaign, how many emails are within it. And it actually focuses on the record count, so how many emails were sent within that campaign. You can be a little bit smarter with this. If you change the y-axis to an individual email record name, that means we're breaking it down in the chart by email. But again, as standard, it will give you one metric. Whereas we can stack these measures one on top of the other. I'll generally think about that logic. What way do I want to read the report? What's the story of the email? So I'll kind of usually put in total sent, total delivered, some of the unique opens, unique clicks there as well. And for example, if we want to put hard bounces, soft bounces, any sort of unsubscribes, we can link all of those into the chart. And it's really, really simple to tell our kind of the story of our email success. So once we've done that, we're kind of into the best practice bit again. So we're into, okay, where are we saving this report, right? It's going into our shared folder. If we have a marketing effectiveness folder or anything like that, don't save it into your private folder. And again, these should be shared folders if you're looking to share these metrics with people. Again, referencing the dashboard, if they need to look for a specific report for a dashboard, should be shared because it needs to be accessed by other people. Obviously, naming conventions really, really important too. And there's a link to our naming convention generator. And then once you've sense checked your work, everything is good, we hit save and run, we should end up with something that looks like this. So this is our finished article in Sales Cloud. Really, really nice. Again, we get a high level breakdown across the top. We've got multiple different ideas of records, total sent, total delivered, soft bounces, hard bounces, and it kind of gives you a really nice visual representation across the top. Now, here is where we do have a poll. So, Triana, I may just get you as well.
Yeah, so another poll will have gone live now, just while everyone's taking all of that in, because I know that was a really big section there, which Mark covered. So while you're digesting all that, and Mark can have a sip of water if he needs it, the new poll is just asking if, whatever reporting you're doing, it might not be exactly this, but are you turning those reports into action plans, or is it something that is kind of like, something you want to be doing?
Perfect. Thanks, Triana. And it's, that question is always something that I pose to clients is like, okay, brilliant. We get all this information back. What are we doing with it? How are we improving our marketing effectiveness year on year, quarter on quarter? So again, benchmarking, making sure we're taking in the right data, and actually looking at comparative reports is something that I would really, really be enthusiastic about from a client perspective, because we want to see how does this year's data look at versus last year's data, and how effective have the changes that we've made actually been. So again, that's our finished article, but what do we want to do with it overall? We can create marketing effectiveness dashboards, right? So again, dashboard functionality, really nice. I'll kind of talk a little bit about the kind of features we have there in terms of subscriptions and stuff like that. But actually adding metrics to a dashboard is where I would kind of really put value on the storytelling. So this is where, as I said, we've all been in those meetings, we're standing there justifying our existence as marketers, and we're kind of showcasing, well, what have we done? How effective has it been? And what have we done to kind of drive any sort of conversions pipeline? So again, we're showcasing our effectiveness. From one report, we can actually get multiple metrics in there. So actually, if we look at the top line of that dashboard, we're using the original report that I built, and I'm displaying it as it was built. And what I've done here is just use the strength of the dashboard builder to pull different metrics from that from that one report and just display KPIs based on that with our number widgets. So really, really useful to tell kind of a powerful story there about how effective our emails have been. Total sent was 4.2K and we're getting 1.1K unique opens, and unique clicks, we've got 190, right? So again, being able to stand confidently and tell the story of the data, dashboard's really, really effective. And actually some of the nice features about dashboards, there's a lot of stuff we can do, as I say, in terms of putting different displays, displaying different metrics in different ways. You can even put targets in there. So if you have a gauge, so if you want to have a specific number reached within a specific target time, you can set up targets and gauges where, okay, we're still in the red, we need to change something, or we're in amber or green. So we've got like a RAG status on some of the metrics we can use. Again, just from a visual perspective, just to change it up, donut charts, you know, you've got stack bar charts and line graphs. Again, it gets into how clever you are when it comes to reporting. It's always something that we support clients on quite well. But you can get some really nice storytelling from it. So as I say, in the previous dashboard, we used the chart settings from the reports. We didn't change anything, but the other ones, what I did was took the metric and just displayed it as a KPI, right? So again, we can display as any of these chart types we have, whether that be stack bars, gauges, or tables. So again, what I've done here, take the KPI of the sum of total sent emails, just display it as a number. So again, really useful for telling those kind of really important parts of the story. And again, showcasing numeric values is something we all have to do and stand with confidence. So it's definitely something that we rely on. The last bit, and this is kind of the end of me talking with 3 minutes to go, so I'm very, very sorry if I got into the zone and nerded out, but the functionality of the dashboard is really useful. So subscription, absolutely excellent. So we want to make sure that before that key marketing meeting we have every month, the selected users get emailed to let them know that there's a version of it available. So we can have this shared with people. They'll all get to see it. And again, that kind of nod to the value of the information on it right before we walk into that meeting is something that's really key. And the last thing that I always say about dashboards is when you log in to view it and you panic because you're not seeing the most up-to-date information and you think, oh, this data is way off, refresh the dashboard. It will always tell you on the left-hand side when it was last refreshed. So definitely refresh is something I would always say. I probably say it far too many times, but if you don't see the right data, it's probably because it hasn't refreshed. Okay, I think that's me covered.
Yeah, and just before you kind of do the nice summary, again, another, I think the final poll has just been published, which is just asking if people in the audience are using Sales Cloud dashboards, if they've kind of discovered the magic of making those reports into something very beautiful.
Perfect, thanks, Triana. Yeah, so just to kind of give our summaries and key takeaways, reporting and account engagement, really useful, solid information comes back in terms of individual assets and how they react. So we're looking at click-throughs, heat maps, client breakdown, again, from that side of the strategy. And then when we're looking at reporting in Sales Cloud, much higher level, and actually the ability to put a ring fence around all of our engagement from emails, forms, landing pages, and marketing links. So again, telling that story of the overall effectiveness of a campaign is where you would really stand from a Sales Cloud perspective. Okay.
Wonderful. Right. Well, thank you very much, Mark, for taking us through that. And with literally a minute to go, we'll kind of open the floor if anyone has any last minute questions, although I think we have addressed them all throughout. If we did miss your question, by the way, please just kind of drop a little note. We might not have time to cover it in the next, whatever it's going to be, probably now 45 seconds, but we'll definitely pick it up kind of after the fact. And there is also a link which has just been posted in the chat where if you do have any follow-on questions, you can kind of book a meeting with us to talk a bit more one-to-one about things. But I'll just see if there is any last thoughts, burning questions from the audience now. Well, for those of you who have stuck around to the bitter end, or I should say the sweet end, it wasn't bitter at all. There is a free resource here that we have for you. If you scan the QR code, you will get this email marketing best practices guide that we have. So do take advantage of that. Also feel free, head over generally to the MarCloud website. Lots of really great resources there, blogs, ebooks, all sorts of things. But I think generally we just hope you've all enjoyed the topic today. And Mark, thank you. Little claps here on behalf of everybody in the audience who can't, you can't hear their clapping. But yes, thank you all for taking time from your day to join us, and we will see you all for the next one.